Just about 2 rounds left in RCI's inaugural iRacing IMSA Road Race Season 1. And that's brought us to the South, the Deep South, the dirty, and of course, hot Atlanta. We are at none other than Road Atlanta, a track with a past as storied as any other business you could imagine in America. Hello, everybody. I'm Jesse Lee, joined again by Sarah Stant with Ash Bibby behind the cameras. The numbers for the series might have dwindled a bit, but there are still a dedicated contingent of drivers and teams fighting over championship titles here, points, and of course, more than anything, fighting to stay on these difficult North American tracks. Sarah, welcome in.
Thank you so much. Glad to be back in.
Well, this is going to be a race of attrition just like every other one. Last week, we were at Laguna Seca, a track that claimed a large contingent of the field. Today, in practice, we've seen a lot of that occur already. Sarah, what makes Road Atlanta so difficult?
Road Atlanta's major thing that people have to get past is the constantly rising and falling track. There's a lot of points on this track where the cars go up over blind corners, and really you have to maintain that speed if you want to be able to compete, but at the same time you have no idea what's happened on the other side. There could be a sideways car when you come over that crest and you have no idea.
Right, you are, and it's difficult not only for the GTPs, it's difficult for all of the classes. Keep in mind, the top two do not have ABS. They do not have any sort of traction device on the car. The GTDs, the IMSA 23 cars, the pink numbered cars, they do have that, but even those cars have found themselves in a little bit of drama, especially through turn number 1, and as if on cue, that is exactly what we're talking about and what we witnessed in practice.
He had to have done a little bit of damage to his arrow there. Hopefully he's be able to get it back on the road and put up a good time.
Hopefully so, and still time here in qualifying. Of course, the abbreviated quali, longer practice. Yeah, just jumped the curb there. Didn't quite get all the way to the right as far as they would have needed to have done, but that's going to be a problem in the race. Not a lot of racing room in these corners. You're jockeying for position and time. You're going to get a lot of your passing done either down straights after somebody's messed up one of these corners, or you're going to get it done in the braking zones, though that is a bit more of a difficult task. The S is such a difficult section of turns. It goes right, left, right, up the hill, unsighted turns as well. A lot of that here adds to the drama. You drive a lot through feel at this racetrack, I think I'm right in saying, Sarah.
Absolutely. This is a course that you really have to kind of get down in your blood. If you are just trying to kind of send it through based on context clues of this track, context clues of this track, then you're gonna have a bad time. There's so many points on this track where it feels like the racing line is probably somewhere, but then you get to that point and you're supposed to be way over on the opposite side, and next thing you know, you're shooting off the track. It's all down to those blind corners and those real big curbs coming out. Oh, as we see right through the S's here, we had a bit of a lockup, and that was enough to send them sideways.
That's all it's going to take, folks, for these GTPs. There's certain curves they can't hit. They try to get on the throttle too much through some of the rises. That was coming through turn 11. The track technically has 12 turns. Some of those turns have multiple parts, of course, but turn 11 is going to be difficult. There's going to be cars that try to gun it a little bit too much through 12 as well, the final corner, and they're going to hit the outside wall on the pit straight as well. We saw the Porsche in the GTD class get sideways trying to come up through turn 1. We saw a couple of Porsches do that in practice. They seem to be the only ones in the GTD class that tend to have that issue, so we'll see if that's a manufacturer specific thing going forward, or perhaps just unlucky that the couple of Porsches have had that incident. Sindelar, the quickest in GTP and quali thus far with 4 minutes left to play. It's a 106.901, the quickest lap time of all. 3/10 behind them is Luca Filippi, and Leach behind them in third. Daly and Octane, your top 5 in the top class. Benjamin Heilman is on pole. It's a 109 for Heilmann's Dallara in LMP2. Peter Roche is second, Ted Edwards third right now. There are more cars in that LMP2 class. They just have yet to set a representative time. GTD, close as you would expect. Janjic out in front, a 1:18.3 for them. 3/10 behind them is Anderson with Macha. IMTO just a 10th behind them. And then you've got Ruoff, Rowe, and Boss, the other cars that have currently taken time in that category. A lot of the drivers, just like practice there, we saw them struggle to just get a lap down. They're struggling to do it here in qualifying where it really matters. But with the abbreviated field we have, how much pressure would you put on yourself for quali in a situation like this?
When it's a lot more kind of tight like this, I feel like it's a little bit less of a worry for qualifying because you're going to be fighting through a lot less people, but that's up to every individual driver. I know a lot of drivers that thrive on that back to front. They cannot even just react if they have to start in the middle of the pack. So it's up to each driver to figure out how they're going. And I guess today's other fun fact so far, the only crashes we've seen on screen have been all from Porsche cars. There's been 2 GTPs and 1 GTD.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement to make. It is true. I wonder if the Porsches just, for whatever reason, have an unnatural imbalance here, or maybe they're the ones that are absolutely going for it. Of course, with that said, Sindelar in their GTP Porsche, currently provisional pole in that category, and Janjic and Ruoff are 1-2 in the GTD class. So maybe they're the ones that can absolutely get after it and are sort of paying the price. Something that may be a benefit in the future here on RCI iRacing broadcast. That little thing on the far right side of the timing tower, that's the tire selection for the teams. Now, that has no meaning here in today's race, of course, because everybody will be on one set of tires, no rain scheduled, which may or may not be possible here at Road Atlanta yet, but not going to be the case. Everyone will be on their stickiest dry set of tires. But in the future, that widget, that new widget, of course, coming in this week, might be very important to watch. So showing off some of the new technology that will likely play a factor. And for season 2, which I can only imagine is in the works right now, you wouldn't think old event manager Tom Bryant might throw a little weather their way.
I sure hope so, and I do want to point out to everyone there, yes, Road Atlanta in all of its configurations does support rain.
Let's go. Yep, I was not sure. I didn't want to say that it was or it wasn't, but there you have it. It is confirmed. All the variants here have the ability of weather. And what strikes me about that update this week is just how impressive that it actually was. What we got in iRacing for rain and weather and all that was a bit more than I expected. There's a whole radar system, and with systems blowing in and out, the wind picking up, and the puddles, and just everything about it, having to run off the racing line whenever the rubber is built up versus if there's no rubber and it's raining, you can kind of maneuver your line around and dodging inside curbs, and just the detail is absolutely there. Qualifying coming to an end, only one GTD left out there on the racetrack on a valid lap, and now they are not. So qualifying confirmed. Sindelar on pole over Filippi, and Leach, Daly, Octane, and Lep, the 6 GTP cars. Porsche, Cadillac, the top 3 starting there. Benjamin Heilmann out-qualifies Peter Roche and Dijkstrup for the second week in a row at least. And Tom Bryant and Edwards fills out the 5-car field in LMP2. Janjic, Ruoff, a Porsche lockout of the front row in GTD with a Lamborghini in third, with Anderson behind the wheel. Macha in the Ferrari in fifth, or in fourth, I should say. Rowe in the Audi in fifth. Piotr Dominicus and Kevin Boss are the rest of your starters in GTD. With that said, and with only 2 rounds left of the championship, let's show you how the championship has shaken out thus far. Luca Filippi holds a decent championship lead in a good race here today. A podium would pretty much secure him the GTP championship over Jaroslav Sindelar. But if Sindelar wins this race and Filippi exits early, it will pretty much deadlock these two for a winner-take-all battle in the final round. Leach in third with 233 points, just on the outside looking in. Irmis Erkma with 210. Lucas Christek on 183. Lubos Lep has 173. Jordan Daly on 167. Bastian Sindelar 161. Vin Dressel has 130. Suranek on 96. Brushek on 92. Parrott 44. Fernandez 40. Carroll on 31. Roscom on 25. William has 21. And Din has 17 points. LMP2, the smaller field, but it has been quite contentious in the mid-pack. Justak has run away with the championship. I don't think at this point that Mikolai can be caught. I think they're champion-elect at this point, but behind them, still everything to play for. Justin Dystro with 255 points holds a slim lead over Benjamin Heilman and Maciej Hyla, 219 points. Tom Bryant tied with Hyla, of course, on 219. 6th place, Ted Edwards with 202. Christian Kanferger with 135. Mikhail Sundstrom on 92. And Rafael Huel has 40 points. GTD has looked a little bit like this. Zoran Jančić just needs a decent day here today to make him a champion yet to be crowned over Yannick Ruoff, who has 220 points. Daniel Merchant has 213. Mark Macha on 196. Piotr Dominicus rounds out the top 5, 183, tied with Christopher Rowe for that spot. Ada Wolf in 7th place, 172. James Mead on 167. Pavel Dazal with 136. Anderson has 130. Watts has 118. Boss 62. And Gutman has 44. Well, the championships are looking just about done at the top, but it's all about bragging rights. You want a trophy of some variety, and if you can't get gold, you might as well get silver or at minimum get bronze. How aggressive are you, Sarah, this late into a championship, knowing that maybe overall victory is not possible, but you can still get something? How aggressive would you be?
Absolutely as aggressive as possible. At this point, it's go big or go home. I mean, it's a little bit of a tire adage, but really at this point, you got nothing to lose. Either you're going to win or you're going to lose. I mean, send it, have a good time, try not to end your own race, see if you can't do something with that.
I think these drivers are going to live up to that, if I'm honest. I think they're still going to go for it. They're not here to ride around. Jordan Daly has put it several times. Hey, I paid for the car, I paid for the track, and I'm going to use it. And I think that's what a lot of these drivers have on their mind. 3 different starts, of course. The GTPs first over the LMP2s, and then the GTD field will come to the line. Now, because this is just a 1 minute 10 lap here, and for the GTPs, it's actually slightly faster than a 1 minute 10. They will be on the GTD field early and often. This will be a track where traffic will come into play. You've got to pick your battles, and there they are, single file before they ever get to the line. We're green here for the penultimate round here in the RCI iRacing Road Series Season 1. Sindelar gets away cleanly. Felipe and Leach, though, are nose to tail in a battle with Daly following close behind. A little bit of gap opens up just behind them, but only just, as they all jockey for position and jockey to stay on the optimum line. No car falling out of it here in the first couple of corners. That's easier said than done. And just as I've said that, looks like Felipe has gone off the track. Here comes Leach looking up the inside to the outside, gets blocked by Felipe there, and that will stunt that motion. Sindelar continues to get away. Another bad corner there from Luca Felipe. Here comes Leach.
Here he comes. He's really kind of riding up nice and close, trying to get as much of that draft as he can out of that car. He's going to try to get as much speed while conserving as much fuel as he can down that line. Try to see if he can get something out of it, but it doesn't look like that. He's just going to hold on.
Certainly is. He's done a good job. I don't think Leach has given it everything here early in the race. He doesn't want to have contact early. Had a couple of little looks. Maybe could have pulled out of the draft there a little bit, but elected to not risk it for the biscuit here early on. That's a very mature driver move.
Absolutely. Making sure to not try to throw too much of your race at the very beginning is so important. Getting as much as you can in terms of little bits of performance early on is really going to pay off in the later time in the race. I have not had enough morning coffee. How about you, Jesse?
Well, I tell you what, Anderson surely has, and they're going to go off the track, exit stage left to the Lamborghini, the 221 red line Lambo of Anderson. They had contact coming through 10A and ended up backwards in 10B, a 12-corner racetrack. Here, we're going to see how this happened. It looks like he gets his nose in there and just on the curbing there in contact with the Ferrari of Bart Macha, and that sent the 221 around.
I think that's back to what we were just talking about a second ago about making mature racing decisions. We saw with the GTP cars them not really risking it, staying in the draft and just using that little bit of time to get a little extra speed, a little less tire wear in that corner. What we just saw there was the opposite of that. We saw a driver come out of the slipstream, try to slide past them when there just wasn't space. That corner requires a lot tighter of a turn than you realize, and it's just, unfortunately, a little bit of grass and hitting the wall.
Benjamin Heilman leads early again. This is the same song, different verse from a week ago. Eventually would lose the lead. It wasn't to Dijkstra a week ago, though, but it might be here today. These two, Dijkstra and Heilman, have left the field a little bit, nearly 2 seconds back to Ted Edwards, who has driven all the way up to third. Something has happened to Peter Roche. They are down in last place. They have come in and now are back out of pit lane. Unknown what's happened to the connection lost 404, but here we are. This is the CLR 404, the blue and red car in the middle of the screen. Just gets a little bit loose coming up the hill, smacks the wall once, and that will be enough to put the tires out of alignment. That's why they've come into pit lane.
It's always unfortunate to see these kind of things. These cars are so fragile. They have so much aero, and they'll send you wherever you really want to point it, but if you have any sort of moment where it loses its grip, it cannot handle touching a wall or another car.
I wonder how much of that, too, was trying to get back to the throttle and how much of that might have been the aero wash off of Heilman's car. Either way, it tripped down pit lane, the remedy for that issue. The Triple R cars, Daly and Octane, running nose to tail. No fighting between them currently. Daly's trying to look up. Oh, and it's a big crash. Ryan Leach has had a huge accident out of what was effectively second or third place here. And I wonder, was this another unforced error? It was. He was on the outside curb, then the inside curb. He unsettles it by straddling the exit curb in what is effectively, that would be turn 4 there. And no, that's turn 5, in fact, and just beaches it and goes for a wild ride. That's massive damage to the 711 Leach.
Hopefully he still has that quick repair, because he's going to need to get that car back to the... Wow, he is still driving it. Wow. That thing must be so lucky to still have the alignment to be able to drive. I am absolutely flabbergasted. He has zero front aero. He is just a radiator. Goodness.
Front clip of that car completely gone. That'll take some repairs, and I admire what Leach has done here in the interest of time and brevity. He's elected to not tow that car. He's elected to drive it back to pit lane, meaning you don't have to sit there for a couple of minutes for the tow and then do the repair. The team can get right down to the repair. And I like where Leach's head's at. He's banking on the fact that he's not the only GTP that's going to find the wall here today. And I suppose he's hoping that maybe some other drivers, some other GTPs have a less fortuitous bounce, if you will, and they will not be able to drive away. The steering on that car looked majorly straight, but the entire front clip, as you may have noticed, the aero, all of that, like you said, Sarah, down to the radiator, completely gone.
I was absolutely shocked to see that. There was no smoke from tire pull either, which means the alignment was perfectly in a line. He must have just hit it in just the way that he lost his front aero, because I can't think of any other way. Usually when you see a car have its aero, its alignment get fucked up, pardon my language, get messed up, you see a lot of kind of bit of rubber put down on the track. You see smoke. You see these things that are kind of signs that something is deeply wrong with the car.
Well, you just saw a little bit of a moment right there, and Luca Filippi, by the way, has driven away in this field again. There's 6 seconds to the good. Sindelar in P2. Billy Octane has just had an incident of their own. They have fallen all the way back. They've lost it in turn 6. They were off camera. We were just in turn 6 up here, but we didn't see them. That must mean they were far off the racetrack, and they were, and he's hard into the wall, misjudged the braking zone and distance, couldn't see the apex of the corner, and that car hard into the wall, and that has elected into a tow for the number 33 Triple R machine, and very nearly took out, I don't know if that was Sindelar or whom they nearly took out, but Anderson has had an additional trip into the barrier here.
Well, it looks like he's still managing to hold on. He's getting back down the straight there. We're not seeing a lot of smoke, so hopefully his alignment's handling well, and he's able to continue on. Wow, that was very mature of me to burp there. I apologize.
Felipe leads the race in GTP, Sindelar P2, and with Octane's exit, that has put Jordan Daly up into third, though he's just lost third place because Lucas Lepp now is third. Jordan Daly involved in an incident here, and this is again going up for turn 5. Same thing as before, different result though, as Jordan Daly slides all the way to the extreme outside of the racetrack, and that has, in effectively a lap and a half's time, has eliminated both of the Triple R cars from competition here today. They were both running decently well, I might add. Leach has already, remember, Leach had the first issue in the GTP category. Kevin Boss goes for a huge slide in one. We talked about briefly, that was a common thing we saw in practice, the Porsches going sideways in one, which is kind of got Sarah and I scratching our heads. We've not really seen that here before. The track somewhat warm, 31 degrees C, as you can see in the top left of the screen, but nothing that would lead us to believe that the tires are really overworked. I mean, maybe just trying to carry too much speed into one.
I think a lot of these people are carrying far too much speed into the corners. With this kind of track, it really encourages you to kind of really lay the foot down on some of those corners, but it also really teaches you that throttle management is so important. And if you don't want to end up, having your race replay clipped by the Teriyaki Boys, I suggest that you take it a little bit easier on the throttle coming in. That's a Tokyo Drift reference.
Sarah, remind me, is that Teriyaki Boys with an S or a Z?
That is Teriyaki Boys, in fact, with a Z.
Yeah, of course it is. Well, you may wonder if you know how they do in Tokyo, but you don't want to do that here. Atlanta, Georgia, or just outside of that, in fact. I think we're in Polk County, I think is where we're at. The literal polar opposite of Tokyo, Japan, I would reckon.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily the opposite of Tokyo, but it is kind of a little different. And it's in Brazelton.
Oh, it's in Brazelton. Okay, that makes sense to you and me, but how many other people know what we're on about here? Just if you're not familiar with Road Atlanta, it is a 12-turn road course in the heart of Georgia. Of course, it's not the longest circuit in the world, after all, but it's a fun circuit. It opened up originally in September of 1970. It's got a seedy and storied history. The current circuit that we're racing on today is just over 2.5 miles. So think like a Talladega or a Daytona, not the road course, the oval bit. It's not a particularly large track, and the lap record here set all the way back in, I think, 2007, 2008 by a Peugeot, back whenever they used to bring those over here to race in the American Le Mans series. One of my favorite cars of all time, because I get to say Peugeot 208 HDI FAP. That's the actual name of the car. Lovely thing. We didn't get anywhere near that lap record here in the race so far. Actually, we have. Sindelar has ran a 7.8. The real world record is only a 7 flat, so getting kind of close.
Absolutely. I'm really glad we also got to see that car's best Colin McRae adaptation there. That was really fun.
Yep, you will do that here at Road Atlanta. Of course, also this track famous for hosting the Petit Le Mans every year, and as the season ender for the IMSA series. Not the season ender here for us here at RCI. We got one more race next week where we'll crown the champions, but still, it's a track that, just like a lot of these American tracks, I think these drivers are figuring out, American tracks chew you up and spit you out. They're not like a lot of their European contemporaries where you can have a crash and get away with it. A lot of American tracks, still a lot of grass. The margins are very, very fine indeed. The curbs, unhospitable. The walls, even less so.
Absolutely. And courses like this, the grass is a little bit misleading. Sometimes even the grass is angled away from the racetrack, kind of like, I believe it's Virginia has that one, where the grass at the end of the start-finish straight is downward sloping. So if you go off the track, you're almost guaranteed to slide off into the wall.
Yeah, I've certainly been steering right on the grass there at VIR and still been going left, and I was quite confused what was going on, but it certainly is. The entire track is sort of built on a hill, and it's very prevalent on the pit straight for some reason that, well, it's almost like ice in a way of the sloping nature. All the contours of this racetrack, uninviting. Obviously, the best case scenario, stay on the black stuff, on the green or even the curbs. It's going to be a very short trip into the barrier, as some of the cars have found out today. All the cars involved in incidents thus far have continued. Leach, who was the first to have incident in LMP or in the GTP class, remember they drove their car back to pit lane, and by virtue of that, they got in front of Octane, who has since retired, and Daly, of course, who also went to pit lane. So Leach is up to fourth now after removing their entire front clip of that car. Octane, our only retirement that I'm aware of thus far. Felipe and Sindelar locked into a battle 4 seconds apart. Lep is in the John Dalton zone, meaning they're not around or racing anyone in particular. And you have this battle, of course, going on in LMP2. Dykstra has gotten in front of Heilman. This is shades of last week all over again. Heilman might be having flashbacks.
Absolutely. It's just that bumper to bumper, really kind of pressing the driver in front of you. This is exactly like last race. It should be exciting to see, though, because last time we saw this was much later in the race.
Yeah, completely different track, too. Laguna Seca, tight, twisty. This is sort of tight, but it's very fast. It's a very fast racetrack. You make a little mistake, and it could go incredibly wrong here. Heilman, who has out-qualified everyone second time in a row, now finds himself in that similar position of trying to get it back, and here he goes. It's a long run down into turn number 10, but does he get it broke up enough? He does, and he slides right in front of Dykstra. Dykstra has no option but to let off the brake and the throttle there and not run into the back of Heilman, who retakes the lead in LMP2. Now, that was close, but that was such a good run and a good battle. Hopefully that preserves this between these two. I would rather enjoy another continuous battle between the top 2 or 3 in the LMP2 class for a second week in a row.
Absolutely, and I just love watching those cars come down that big roller coaster hill. That is not the track, but you know, sometimes you miss the corner, you got to take the runoff road to avoid causing problems, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Taking the moto line through there, I'm pretty sure is what was going on there. But well,
I was being too nice.
I think too, if you're gonna run off, slow the car down, keep it on the black stuff, as I mentioned earlier, and that's not the course we're running today, but it's better than sliding through the grass downhill otherwise, like they would have done. Fight for the lead in GTD. Ruoff a lap ago ran the quickest lap time in that class overall. It was a high 19, and that was the quickest ever. Benjamin Heilman just ran the quickest of all time in LMP2. It's a 1 minute 10.4 for them. And now Ruoff has caught Janjic for the lead of GTD. Now, clearly, the Porsche in the back there, the 297, quicker than the Grello Green 24. And the question is, it's not about just being quicker. You've got to be craftier to make a pass around here, as we saw Heilman do down in this very corner a lap ago.
Absolutely. And when we see these cars kind of like just pressing up against each other, I think the biggest thing that we really got to remember for LMP2 and GTP drivers on this race is that they have to be so patient. They really got to make sure that they only use these straightaways. Don't try to make these corners like when through the S's, try to sneak your way past. You're just going to have a bad time. And another thing we saw there with the driver who went off and used the moto line. This is one of those examples of this hill here. As you can see, we're inside the car. Do you see how the line looks like it might be somewhere, but all of a sudden you come over and there's the corner again? There's so many of these blind corners these drivers have to deal with. They don't have the benefit of being high above the car in third person. They are right there inside the car having to deal with the way these turns are every time.
Yeah, they really are. Jean-Jacques, by the way, has responded. Ruoff, as you'll recall, a couple laps ago ran the quickest lap, which would have been a 19-something. Well, Jean-Jacques has responded immediately, an 18.9. That's what the purple number lap time beside Jean-Jacques' name means. That's the quickest in their class. Benjamin Heilman has reset quick lap in LMP2 as well on the very same lap. A green number like Piotr Dominicus has in 7th in GTD. That's the quickest personal lap for them. Purple, quickest of all. Green, quickest for you personally. So Jean-Jacques and Ruoff fighting for it head-to-head here. And if you're Ruoff and you've just been bested, you kind of go back to school a little bit, figure out what he's doing better. Maybe he's picking up the throttle. Maybe he's braking a little bit earlier to get a better run. That's one of the things around Road Atlanta that I think a lot of people get wrong, is that they want to try and speed through some of these corners by carrying apex speed. But in reality, a lot of these corners are late apexes that you should brake early for, set yourself up for quite early, which is counterintuitive a lot for racing drivers. You just want to be carrying as much speed as possible, but in reality, around here, braking early can be the key. Sarah was just talking about this, working lap traffic.
Absolutely, and kind of having these moments here. You see this driver right here. He's so impatient. He's putting his entire race at risk here, trying to find a way past a GTD through the S's here. That's so dangerous, not just for themselves, but also for the GTD. I mean, that car now is panicking. They're like, this guy is flashing me behind me, or he's right up against me. I gotta move, and then they make a mistake, and next thing you know, you have cars in the wall.
Take another look at this off of the racetrack there, and very scary moments as you're trying to navigate the traffic. We assumed it was going to be a bit of a problem, and eventually you just got to sit there and you got to take your medicine. You got to wait for another opportunity and just be thankful. It's hard to be thankful in the moment because you're frustrated for Dijkstra there, but you just got to be thankful that it didn't go worse than it actually did. That was Heilman on Dijkstra, by the way. That was for P1 in the LMP2 class, so they were racing quite aggressively. Heilman perhaps a little bit caught up in some of that traffic. And scary moment here again, trying to go around the outside. Got to trust that Ferrari. That's Bart Macha. A flash of the lights there from Macha as well, registering his displeasure with not being patient, as you said.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't blame these GT3 drivers for having a little bit of frustration over these faster prototype cars kind of taking advantage in these areas that are really dangerous for both cars. I mean, the last thing you want to do is we talked about it earlier about how on these American tracks, there's really no room for error. You get hit, you slide off, you hit a wall. There's no coming back from that. And last thing you want to do is have a prototype car dive in on your corner, hit you, ping pong you both to the wall, and now you're in last place.
Certainly is. A lot of these racetracks that we've been racing on, we touched on it earlier about them being a little less modern than some of the European counterparts, but it puts me in the mind of a lot of the BTCC racetracks they have in the UK, where Thruxton, for instance, in the UK, if you wreck at Thruxton, you're wrecking for a mile in some cases, almost literally, before you ever get to a barrier, which is great. Here, it's kind of like that, except that the barriers, the confines, are a little closer. But the threat of going off is still the very same. A track lined with lush grass does not grip, and you got to be careful. And that goes to doing overtakes as well. Some drivers might be more willing to put their car in the grass to make a pass. And that could be very dangerous, not only to them. If they spin out, they could take whatever car they're overtaking with them. Risk versus reward certainly on display here throughout this championship.
I mean, and that risk versus reward is really kind of showing up because these drivers are making pushes to try to, salvage maybe a season. Maybe they want to try to get second, third, fourth, whatever. They want to do better than they are right now, but we'll see if that reward risk kind of ratio results in, some faster racing, or if it ends up more kind of drivers into the wall.
Well, Jaroslav Sindelar is certainly trying. That was at one point a 4 and something second gap. Sindelar has taken the quickest lap in their class and is continuing to bit by bit chase down the leader, Luca Filippi, in the number 9 in the GTP category. It's gone up a little bit, admittedly. It was under 3 seconds. It's now back up to 3.4 seconds for the moment. But Sindelar making steady progress. We saw a little bit of this for a couple of weeks, and it just hasn't amassed to much. It seems like second place will catch the leader and then lose all that time back, as if, of course, influenced by traffic, the ebb and flow of racing, as it were. But for the time being, Sindelar, the quickest lap in that class, trying to make up some of those seconds that they need to catch back up.
And, you can see on our timing tower here, if you're watching at home, just the gap between the cars here. And we can see that some of these gaps are a little bit bigger than others, but some of them are starting to close up, some of them are widening, and we're even seeing drivers who are maybe not doing their best. We can see Kevin Boss right now, who's just set a personal best lap on this one. Hopefully he can continue to improve that and start to pull himself back up.
Yeah, Kevin Boss, who was completely sideways in turn 1 earlier, hasn't changed those tires. They haven't been to pit lane. The only 4 cars that have been to pit lane is Leach and Daly in the LMP2 class. Remember, both those cars involved in single car incidents. Peter Roche has brought the 404 connection lost car into pit lane for a similar issue on lap 1. And Piotr Dominicus brought his Lamborghini in for service after his incident. So nobody else has come in at this point. So Kevin Boss on those I would assume somewhat flat spotted or damaged tires, still out there improving and trying to get a handle on this racetrack. Well, we have gotten to a point in the race where things have calmed down ever so slightly, and let's have a look. Of course, we haven't talked about the racing incidents or incident points that iRacing assigns, but we can give you that here today. And here they are. If you look at the INCS tally marker on the far right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice that Bart Macha is on 13 incident points thus far, and I believe we're on the standard 14 incidents before you get a penalty. So one more off track for Bart Macha, which would give you a 1X or a 1 incident, is going to send them down the pit lane. Other notables, Luca Filippi is on 7 incident points, and Jaroslav Sindelar on 8 incident points themselves. 7 incident points for Kevin Boss, and Luca Filippi also has the 7. Everybody else has 6 or less. Trevor Anderson, Tom Bryan are on 6. The only driver in the field that has 0 is Zoran Janjic. Good for him. One driver, of course, on the 1, but just incredible. And thank Ash Bibby for bringing us not only the data, the telemetry, and the cameras, but also the finer points of iRacing. And if you're joining us for the first time and don't know what incident points are, basically anytime you have contact with another car or you go off track, you accrue incident points. An incident with another car is worth 4x. A off track is worth a 1x. And anytime you get that sort of thing, you start to accrue these. You get a maximum total of incident points a race. Standard iRacing races, it's 14 points before you get a drive-through penalty. Ryan Leach has had an incident again, same place as last time. A little bit better result, though, as they didn't completely remove the entire front housing of the race car. But a subsequent incident, and they have not brought that car down pit lane. 711 Cadillac still out there and not coming in to the pit lane. Well, here is Jaroslav Sindelar in the yellow and blue or purple car. I'm colorblind, leave me alone. Can't tell what color that is. But they have caught Luca Filippi here for the lead of the race. That gap was 3.5 seconds 2.5 laps ago. Was Felipe held up with traffic, or was Sindelar just that much quicker? The last time through, Felipe was quicker by about a tenth. But the damage has already been done. Jaroslav Sindelar in the blue, or in the purple and yellow car has caught the black, blue, and red Cadillac in front. It's Cadillac versus Porsche here. This is just an in-car camera. Shows you what these GTP drivers are dealing with. This coming through turn 7, down the back straight through the kink of 8 and 9. These little kinks count as turns around here. And then the corner that really matters. Oh, he's got the windscreen wiper on, does Sindelar. Not sure what that's about. It's a bright sunny day here in Georgia. If you're on the tourist board and you're listening, it's always like this here in Georgia.
I would disagree depending on the time of year, but I can definitely tell you it's hot as hell. Also, I remember early on in iRacing, long before rain became a thing, when they started putting rain wipers on some of these cars, they would just erroneously turn on sometimes.
Okay.
Especially the MX-5. The MX-5 one, you'll watch videos of like stuff where just all of a sudden it'll just turn on for no reason.
Ghost in the machine there a little bit, maybe going on there. Not sure. Could have been a button press if you have a steering wheel, like a Fanatec wheel, for instance. Fanatec.com. Check out their arrangement of wheels, bases, and direct drives, and all that over there at Fanatec.com. Use our affiliate link in the description. It lets them know that we sent you. But you can have all sorts of configurations, and if you're fumbling with buttons, maybe you're changing your fuel mixture or brake bias, whatever it may be. Sometimes you can fumble the wrong button, or maybe it's exactly like Sarah says, maybe there's still a couple of little gremlins in there.
Absolutely. I mean, to understand iRacing for the people at home, iRacing originally started off a very long time ago as just a NASCAR simulator. And because of that, a lot of the code had to be built on top of that. I mean, we can look back at other famous examples of other games like that. We have League of Legends, World of Warcraft, and stuff like that, where they just have decades of code on top of other code that sometimes things activate a little weird.
It sure does. And this camera here, to me, illustrates the violence of a racetrack like this. You have no real time to sort of exhale. It's a track that you're always thinking about. You make a millimeter mistake and then you lose time hand over fist, and we're swapping sides here, but this is the one respite here on this track at the 7, 8, 9 section where you get to think about it, but it comes up to probably the more difficult decision to make. How late do you brake? When do you brake? When do you turn in? Because if you turn in too late, you miss the inside there of 10B. But this, of course, a corner that in the prototype's less formidable. But Sarah, you and I know in a lot of race cars around here, that turn 11, 12 complex, very hard to judge. It's unsighted, it's downhill, it's very fast, and if you err on the side of caution through there, you just absolutely hemorrhage lap time.
Absolutely. You have to really go against your internal monologue that tells you that you should not lay full force into that turn, because really the only option is that. It doesn't matter if you're in a GT4, a GT3, or these cars. You just have to send it as much as you possibly can through it. And as we come into this long straight, I guess it's time for a Road Atlanta fun fact time. As you notice, this is a very long straight, Jesse, right?
Yeah, you know what? I've always thought that, Sarah. That looks almost like a runway.
Absolutely, and to understand the history of Road Atlanta is to understand the history of the, I don't know if they still own them, but to understand that at one point, Road Atlanta was owned by some people who decided to maybe run duffel bags full of marijuana. And they also happened to run a 4-plane hire business, which they used the long straightaway of Road Atlanta to take off from.
Well, I opened the broadcast today and I said that racetrack has a potentially dubious past. Now you know what I was talking about. Yeah, I mean the team well known. They bought a Porsche team. They raced at Le Mans, and they were some of the most interesting and illegitimate business people that you could possibly imagine. Now Anderson has went a little bit too far in turn number 12 and has slammed into the pit wall here. It has been a rough day for the 221 Lamborghini, and that is going to result in a DNF. That car is going to retire from the race.
You hate to see it anytime a driver DNFs. It's always, especially this far into the race, you put so much into it, all the practice, all that time getting ready, and then suddenly that's just it. Somebody hits you and you're in a wall. Okay, we got another replay here. This is Ruoff. Ruoff's coming into the corner here and just misjudged it, didn't tuck in deep enough, and he managed to get back onto the course, but gotta be so scared with having those prototypes come in, and but looks like he's made it through the S's, for now at least. He's got a prototype right up behind him there, and he's gonna open up, give them a little bit of room to pass, and hope for the best. Oh!
That scared the both of us at the same time. We expected a prototype to go completely out of control there, but that is not the case. That is not what happened, and thankfully so. Mentioned that if you get in the grass here and you start sliding, you can take others out as collateral. Thought that was exactly what was going to happen here. Sarah, where does this go wrong?
As you can see right now here, the prototype got just a little bit too thirsty for the corner and misjudged just where he was going. It was just a simple matter of just touching a little bit of grass, and he probably let up on the throttle, which means he did not spin immediately out on touching it. So I guess no harm, no foul, minus those 1Xs he got.
Yeah, it's certainly the case. I mean, normally touching grass is a good thing in sim racing, and not so much.
Except for, there was a period, again, for the home game people, iRacing used to have a little bit of a problem where its grass really wasn't emulating sliding and stuff like that. It had a bit too much grip. But drivers figured out during an infamous Spa race that you could heat up, or you could rather cool down your tires by driving over the grass. And this meant less tire wear at the cost of only a couple X over a very long race. And the really unfortunate factor came that drivers on the broadcast split of the race started doing it. And, well, when that happened, the cat was out of the bag, and iRacing had to clap down on it.
Yeah, well, necessity is the mother of invention, but in my opinion, in racing, in any competition really, the rules exist to make sure things are fair and legal. But beyond that, it is a team, an engineer, and a racer's job to test the limits of what the rules say. And there was nothing that said that you couldn't do that. They were using all of the racetrack and then some. And as humorous as that is to look back on, it's one of those things where you can't hate the player. You've got to hate the game. And of course, eventually, that would be rectified. But humorous part of iRacing's long and storied history here. So let's get you all caught up. Felipe and Sindelar, they were nose to tail. That has cooled off for the time being. Sindelar has just run the quickest lap of the race in GTP, a 7.7 for the number 50 Porsche of Sindelar. Felipe, though, still has a 2-second lead. They were nose to tail. That's ballooned out a little bit, lap traffic and some errors, all things considered. Heilman now has sole possession of first place in LMP2. Heilman enjoys a 3-second lead over this man, Dijkstra. Janjic and Ruoff, who were locked in a battle of their own, that has cooled off. 5 seconds the gap now, where we've seen Ruoff and Janjic in the, we'll say, in the battles or trying to survive some of the prototypes' moves. They've both been, in my opinion, caught out in the S's a few times, but both out there 5 seconds apart for the time being. Second DNF, of course, Anderson. Ted Edwards, by the way, in LMP2, they have recently come down pit lane. They came down on lap 23, and that might have been a scheduled stop for them. That might be the first scheduled stop we've seen anyone undertake today thus far.
It looks like it. I can't think of any other reason that he'd be already back out that quickly while actually having his lap time there. We actually have 2 purple times on the lap, so congrats to Heilman of a 109.609 being the fastest LMP2 lap of the race, and the one that I just saw disappeared, so only Heilman gets to have props today. Everybody else suffered.
It was a 107.4 for Sindelar. Jaroslav has reset quickest lap again, and they have erased that gap. They are nose to tail as Felipe and Sindelar for the overall lead of this race right now. Here, of course, are the fastest laps of the race. Felipe's 108 flat versus Sindelar's 107.5. I said it was a 4, it was a 5. So, of course, the only driver in the 7s in the GCP class is Sindelar. Heilman, of course, 109.6 to a 109.9 to Dijkstra, and Peter Roche has run on a 109.8, but found themselves in the pit lane quite early after a lap 1 incident. GTD 118, the quickest in there, and that's about 3 or so tenths quicker than anybody else in the category. Janjic is Ruoff the next closest, and Macha in third. Piotr Dominicus has run a 19.1 though, but of course they've had their own dramas here today.
Absolutely. On the more of the lore of this track here, the Whittingtons, the people who were talking about when it came to Le Mans, given love to talk about Petit Le Mans running here, when they went there, they brought $500,000 in currency with them in the 1970s, which, as you know, would be quite a lot of money today.
Oh, big crash! Sindelar tries to go for
absolutely shabloingled there.
Unbelievable in turn 6. And more further incidents here from Sindelar, and that's going to ruin their chances at contesting this victory and potentially this championship today. It all goes wrong. The Ferrari doesn't see them, and they have their nose in there, and as per usual, the car on the inside is the one that pays the price. Sindelar goes around and loops it again, of course, losing more time. And that is not what you wanted to see. Luca Filippi, by the way, has noticed this, and they have brought the leading Cadillac into the pit lane.
What a smart idea. Take advantage of your opponent's mistakes to try and get yourself that nice, clean pit without a real worry that they're going to kind of overpass you for too long, at least.
Yeah, it's just a smart move here. One of the HWT cars looping it there. Sarah, I didn't quite see what led to that. Was there contact?
Not that I could really see. I think he just got a little bit too greedy through the thing there, and maybe he geared down a little too hard. Kind of a sign of the GTPs and LMP2s. If you gear down one gear too much, the car's wheel spin rate will result in the car just automatically rotating into like a 360.
Very well illustrated there by Sarah Stant. Luca Filippi in the pit lane, so is Lucas Lepp. And Andy Kay has joined us in chat to cheer on Luca and Ryan from PS UK Esports. You love to see the support, and their day just got a little bit better with that most recent incident. Filippi's on their way out of pit lane. Lepp still in the lane for the time being. The only silver lining for Filippi is, as bad as the slide was, the 2 slides, if you will, not a lot of damage there, so they can just take a normal pit stop. The big problem is the damage done on the Delta, some 20 seconds given up by virtue of that incident.
Absolutely, and giving up that 20 seconds can be really painful for a driver, but it is what it is at the end of the day. Just keep your head down, keep driving forward, and hope for the best. Oh, I love that corner so much. The little dip in like that just feels so good.
When you nail it, it feels so good. When you miss it, it's purgatory. Oh, Sindelar out of the pit lane, and this was on cold tires. And this is a problem with GTPs. Talking to some of the drivers in the top class, they say that because there are no tire warmers for these cars, it can take up to 3 laps to get the pressure and the heat in the tires, and that was exiting the pit lane immediately having a little bit of a loop, and that has brought Sindelar back down the pit lane. That Porsche is not. I don't know if they're going to return at this point.
Not really sure. Oh, we got an off track here. Jordan Daly just comes into this corner, goes a little too far onto that curb, and manages to recover though very nicely. Great job.
Why are we so impressed by that? Well, let me tell you, there's not a single driver in this field that's done that and lived to tell the tale. Today, Jordan Daly has just survived a big incident and has now elected that this is the correct time to come into pit lane for new tires and new shorts, no doubt.
Absolutely. Hopefully they got a nice one there, a nice starched pair ready for him. Do people still starch their clothing?
Probably. I'm sure some people do, especially here in the South. We absolutely do that. I don't know if it's a thing in the UK, but
he's grabbing the shorts off of the chair directly next to his other chair kind of driver. I got it.
Yeah, good friend of Jordan Daly, Ash Bibby, our broadcaster, has indicated that Daly probably isn't aware of what starching is. So we're gonna go with that one.
Save that one for the post-race interview.
Yeah, we'll ask them about that and see if that is the case. But excellently saved by the 197 and a good pit stop to boot. Just got to be careful here. We've already seen one car have issues with that thus far. Sindelar still indicates to me that they're out of the pit lane and on the racetrack. So they must have reset, not taken a stop or something. They're still in P2. Something's going on there with the 50. We definitely saw that car sideways and then return to the pit lane, but it's definitely out there now. You can see the green car, or yellow if you prefer. It's going, and it's still showing P2. So I'm not entirely sure what has happened there, because that surely there would have been a tow timer, right, where the controls would be locked. And he might have elected to want to change tires, but I just don't think he was in the box long enough for that.
I don't think that he towed. I think we might have experienced a bit of a technical glitch there, because looking at the drivers on here, they're all on the same lap except for Billy Octane, who is DNF. There's no chance that they went back, because they would be in last place right now with a tow on this track with the time that we're seeing put up. A tow penalty is what? 45 seconds right now at this track, plus repair times. Zero chance.
Yeah, I think you're right. Whatever the replay ended, jump back to what I thought was live pictures. I could have sworn that this car was sitting in pit lane, but I've been wrong before, and I will be wrong again. Sindelar out there in P2 still. The problem, 40 seconds behind Felipe. And for these final 35 minutes, if you are the number 9 Cadillac of Luca Filippi, man, all you have to do is not screw it up. So there it is, confirmed that what I thought I saw, I did not see. Sindelar did not reset to the pit lane. He gathered the car back up after the slide and kept going. So he's a 105 on pit lane, a 1 minute 5 into a 103. So no hijinks there, no funny business. That car slid, so other than the sort of heated up, worn tires now, still continuing, is the 50.
You know, I had a question, Jesse. What octane rating do you think Billy Octane is?
Well, Billy Octane, known world-class sim racer from Estonia, I'm going to say he doesn't get out of bed for anything less than 103, 104.
Oh, wow, he's really rocking it then.
Yeah, he's the kind of individual that always pays extra for premium.
I mean, it's very important, especially on your older vehicles, to only use premium.
Yeah. Well, I used to know what car he had for his daily driver, but I have forgotten to this point. So I was going to make an old car joke, but I don't know if he owns an old car.
I mean, given he lives in Estonia, I wouldn't be surprised if it was an old Lada.
Yeah, I think he drives like a Skoda or a like a Ford Focus or something like that.
Oh, wow.
My memory quite fuzzy on that.
I mean, if you're not just like driving a lot with the interior entirely stripped out for speakers, are you really even living?
I believe Octane said that you can't drive a lot of because he needs to get where he's going every day. So that's not a direct quote. That's a paraphrase, of course. But I believe he said some sentiment close to that. Sindelar not giving up. Just ran the quickest lap in GTP, a 107.4. I erroneously said he ran a 4 earlier. He didn't. It was a 7.5. He has now ran a 7.4 and has done a pretty good job of doing that. Post-pit stop, Dykstra out in front of Benjamin Heilman in LMP2. Heilman, the quicker of the two cars, the mint green car, I think I'm right in saying, of Heilman, has caught Dykstra. This is for the second time today we're going to get treated to this battle.
Absolutely. Glove. Love to see the mint chocolate chip car out today.
If you're wondering why we're laughing to ourselves, our broadcaster, who we can hear in our ear, but you cannot hear, is he's bullying me quite profusely at the moment. And he said, I thought we agreed that it was seafoam green. There's mint chocolate chip ice cream discussion going on. I'm quite hungry, and I would like a nice treat. This car has been a treat to watch here today. And whatever color it is of green, it is going for the lead in their class again. Janjic, 11.5 seconds out in front of Ruoff for the time being. Most of the GTDs have yet to pit. This is a common cycle that we've seen where the GTDs are last in the pit. Barmacho is going to pit that Ferrari out of P3, and that will leave Janjic, Ruoff, Rowe, and Boss, who have yet to pit. Well, Piotr Dominicus need to come in a second time here today because they pitted quite early. Well, that's yet to be seen for the car in fifth.
Really quite interesting to see that some of these cars have elected not to take their pit stops yet. Quite surprising that the majority of our GT3 cars have decided to try to push them as long as they can, except for Peter Dominicus, who obviously took L3.
Just been told Kevin Boss has been involved in a big incident here. You can see the prototype behind him, but uninvolved, just unloads the car and goes head on into the wall, does the wheelie slow 31. And that was about as bizarre of an incident. Just maybe got behind on the steering, or maybe it was a little bit too far ahead of it, and it goes straight on into the wall. I know the Porsche cars, Sarah, if you are set and loaded up into a corner and let off the throttle quite a bit, it loosens the back end up. I wonder if maybe that's what happened to the 31 now.
I'm starting to think that as well. I mean, it's really important to remember that these are rear engine cars. There's so much weight over the back tires there. And yes, it's really showing how really slow that Porsche is after that hit. That LMP almost went into the back of that GT3.
You know, they named that team, so, I suppose they would have an alibi for when it goes horrible. Of course, Wheelie Slow, longtime racing team in many different series here at RCI, not just iRacing, and they're quite often not wheelie slow, but that was a wheelie bad way to do an extra pit stop. Also, they've gifted us the ability to make puns like that. Moving swiftly on, LMP2, Benjamin Heilman's made this pass once and did it down here in turn number 10. How anxious is Heilman to get around Dykstra in this race right now with 30 minutes left to go? How does Heilman play this? Is he calm and collected, or is it get it right now because you're this close and there's no promise, no guarantee that something might not happen in a lap or two? So what's Heilman's mentality here? Are we going like the clappers, or are we very restrained in a situation that he finds himself in right here?
He's really got to be restrained. There's just too many opportunities for other cars to ruin their race. Let this LMP, or rather this GTD car, get through here. Try to see if you can make something of it after they clear each other on the straightaway. Because right now we're coming up onto this corner here. There's like 3 cars, threatening to go 3 wide for a second there. But everything kind of worked out. It was really great. God, I love this view from right by the wheel like that. It just really shows the ferocity of these battles.
Yeah, when you're up high, it really takes away from the topography of the racetrack and just how bumpy the circuit is and how much camber there is, good and bad camber in a lot of these corners. It's not always good camber here, and it shows you the rises and falls of the racetrack and what the curbs look like, because from above they don't look menacing at all, but in reality they're quite bumpy, and it also kind of gives you a better eye level of what the driver's seeing. The final turn here, 12, we just came through completely unsighted. The pit wall, not only is it downhill, the pit wall's in the way, so you're kind of feeling it out and guessing where you need to be. And of course, these two, Dykstra in the yellow car in front and the chocolate chip car of Benjamin Heilman, what they're doing here is they're playing a 180-kilometer cat and mouse game around this racetrack.
Absolutely. That's mint chocolate chip. If this was just chocolate chip, it would be the least favorite flavor of ice cream currently in America.
Yeah, that is incredible. Sarah Stan has posted an article to us that is saying that chocolate chip, this is a RCI news flash, chocolate chip ice cream is reportedly going extinct in North America, and that's a damn shame.
I remember growing up on those real simple flavors that came in the, for lack of a better way of putting it, the big tubs at the bottom of the ice cream aisle, the real cheap stuff, and the stuff where your parents would keep the bucket from it and use it for other things.
I see we had similar upbringings in that way. Heilman had a look around the outside. It was a bad exit out of turn 6 from Dykstra. Heilman got almost all the way around. The inside belonged to Dykstra, though, and he's able to convert that back into the lead of the race. Heilman had a look, didn't quite get there, didn't press it too hard. Sarah, I think Heilman's racing exactly like what you were preaching earlier, using a little bit of restraint. Could he have forced the issue there in turns 10 and 11? Yes. Did he? No. He fell back in line. He knows he's going to have another opportunity as long as he plays his cards right.
Heilman is an incredibly smart driver. He knows exactly that the thing he needs to watch out for is to continue to really pressure from behind, force Dykstra to make those mistakes, and just take advantage of it. Because on a course like this, that is the best way to ensure that you get past without having to really battle in the long run.
Sure is. Not quite the run this time, but we'll see if this multiplies. And it is by the time we get to the downhill section, riding on the wheel cam here of Heilman. Does he pull out? No, he doesn't. Didn't have the overlap, knew he wouldn't get there in time, doesn't want to risk it, so they'll go around another complete circuit before he has another legitimate shot, unless Dykstra has some sort of issue. Tom and chat's cheering on Peter Roche for Connection Lost Racing. Well, here's the thing about the CLR driver. They're quicker than Tom Bryant right now. And even though they had their early incident and they've essentially double pitted here, they could be on for a podium finish here today. If Roche has a clean finish to this race, he could potentially get there. He's about half a second a lap. He's definitely 3/4 of a second a lap that time through, quicker than Tom Bryant in third. I reckon he could just about get there.
If I remember my childhood infomercials very well, CLR is really great at cleaning up.
We need that CLR sponsorship. If you're going to keep doing this, we have got somebody get CLR on the phone
right now.
Get the sponsorship. CLR, not a sponsor, would be a sponsor. We'd love to have you if you're listening out there at home. This man, Lucas Lepp, has just taken P2 away from Sindelar, and the number 18 Cadillac has reaffirmed the stranglehold on the lead for the Cadillacs. It's 1-2 for them right now. Lepp has done their business here, and I wonder if Sindelar was held up ever so slightly. No, that was a bad lap for Sindelar. In fact, it was a 127, so I can imagine Sindelar was off of the racetrack at some point in the previous lap, because they've just now gone back to doing the same sort of lap times they were before. Lepp ran an 8-9 last time through, and Sindelar ran a 7-8. Now, keep in mind, Sindelar did a 1:24 whenever Lepp overtook him, so another off-track for the number 50 Porsche. And speaking of, that was another off-track for the 197, a daily, I think that was.
They're definitely going to have to get the brushes out to clean those tires off when he gets back in. There is enough mud under that car to start a whole new dirt oval.
Final 23 minutes of the race here at Road Atlanta, the RCI iRacing IMSA Championship. And here's what the incident points look like thus far. 17 for Bart Macha and 16 for Ted Edwards, 17 for Jaroslav Sindelar, 15 for, I believe that's Tom Bryant, and is Yannick Ruoff has 13, with Benjamin Heilman, who also has 13. The vast majority of these, Kevin Boss has 15 as well. Vast majority of these, Sarah, these are not contacts with other cars. These are just running wide, running off the track, taking too much curb, running through the grass, missing your apexes, stuff like that. A couple of them are contacts with other cars, but the vast majority is self-inflicted errors.
Absolutely. Unlike ACC, that the only thing you really have to worry about is going a little too fast when you go off track. iRacing not only punishes you with the infamous, they say you've cut the course, you have to give back the time, Australian man voice. You also get those little 1Xs here and there. Also, you get penalized if you touch the wall at all. That's a 2X penalty. That's an additional, like, so if you're already, it really compounds. I'm losing time to hitting the wall, but I'm also getting punished for touching the wall too. It kind of brings in that whole idea that in racing, if you drive off the course, your team is going to get a bill for repairing the track. So
yeah, it's true.
No, continue on, Jesse. Tell him more.
No, I was just going to say it's insult to injury, really, isn't it? You get it wrong, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, but it is kind of like that. A lot of the things about racing that people don't think of is a lot of places, if you're at a club level racing event and you damage the racetrack in some way, whether that be a barrier or whatever it may be, you're on the hook for that bill. That's not something that the track just recoups. That's an additional cost. So iRacing in some ways trying to educate you about there's a proper way to do racing and a negative way to do racing. It all depends on how big your pocketbook is.
Exactly, and much like speeding tickets, those rules are for only people who can't afford it.
Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about that. I've never been caught speeding in my life, so
I lost my license as a young person.
That sounds familiar.
Don't speed on the road, kids. It is not worth it. Go to track days, pay the money. It's so much more fun. And, you never have to worry about accidentally killing yourself or somebody else. You only have to worry about accidentally killing yourself.
I absolutely agree. You wouldn't download a car. Wait, no, that's the wrong lecture.
And wear your damn seatbelt.
Yeah, wear your seatbelt, for God's sake. Use your turn signals. That might be a little bit more difficult for BMW owners. But,
absolutely. And Tesla owners, apparently.
Oh, yeah. That's does the Tesla not automatically use the turn signals? I feel like if it doesn't, Elon, get on that.
I mean, and if you're willing to pay the $6,000 for self-driving.
Both my broadcaster and Sarah said the same thing at the same time, and that was super funny to me. Optional DLCs for your $80,000 car. What a world we live in.
I have no problem with these extra costs for maybe self-driving, but I find it absolutely asinine hearing about DLC costs for heated seats and top speed in your car.
Yep, back in day, all you had to have was a racing license if you had a BMW, to get your car uncapped. Most of the cars were capped at 155 miles an hour, when the car in reality could go 197 miles an hour. And all you had to do to get BMW themselves to take the limit off was hold any national racing license, which is, I believe in most countries, just a form you fill out, and a medical eval, and they would take the limit off. Now you could achieve the same thing with paying an extra 10 grand. Weird. We literally live in a combination of Westworld and what's the What's the one with the women in the red things, the red hoods?
You're referring to the classic Handmaid's Tale. Very, very influential Canadian bit of fiction.
Yeah, we live in a mishmash of those two worlds, I feel. That's not a good thing. Well, 18 minutes left in the race. We've given Elon Musk something to think about. We've challenged all DLC, and I think we should publicly shame Bethesda, who with their shiny horse armor DLC started all of this. "18 minutes left to go. Luca Filippi looking like they're going to run away with it here today. They have over a minute, nearly an entire lap over Luca's lap at the moment. Sindelar in third, though, has clawed back some of that gap. Sindelar, who had that little bit of an issue, and that has led to Sindelar being in third. And have they had an additional little mistake? Just a little bit of one, but they're able to correct it. But then again, it goes back to our previous conversation. That's another exit minimum for driving off of the race course.
We just keep seeing that over and over again. Just so many people just kissing the dirt. I mean, the less they hit the wall, the better, but it's really quite surprising. These drivers are usually a lot more practiced on these kind of courses, but I guess the reality of a lot of these drivers mostly stick to European courses. They don't spend a lot of time on these kind of more tight, tough American courses.
I talked to a good number of drivers prior to this championship starting, and also throughout, and well, I've mentioned this periodically throughout the series, but a lot of these drivers, they had heard of these racetracks, but they had never been here, and the overwhelming majority were sort of surprised about how it felt and what these tracks were. I think I've also been asked too, you know, are these major circuits in America? And I think that's the one that takes me aback, that they don't know that. It would be like going to Mosport and going, is this track always been here? To me, because Mosport's just such a huge part of Canadian, North American motorsport in general. And I love that in here. I would love to, for season 2, explore some of those tracks. Mosport, of course, being a fantastic circuit, sort of like a simplified Road Atlanta. Really is Mosport. Very fast race course.
Very similar idea. These kind of really blind kind of hills, deep dives, really tight corners. It definitely does have that same sort of kind of feel.
Love that racetrack. It's not called Mosport anymore. What is it called? Canadian Tire Motorsport Park?
It is, yeah, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
It'll always be Mosport to me because I'm an old man. Kevin Boss has had a couple of spins. They've kept it together thus far, and they're still in 6th place. And despite it all, only the one DNF in the GTD class, and only one more further DNF in the GTP class. 2 cars out. Everybody else that has started today's race has continued despite the foibles on the track. Dykstra continues to lead. How did you know I was going to talk about the AAA? It still leads Benjamin Heilman, and that gap has opened up here. 4 seconds the gap between first and second in LMP2, and what a frustrating day it would be for Heilman. You have 2 weeks in a row. They get the pole, they lead, they swap the lead back and forth, and then late in the race, they get doomed to second or third place. You'd hate to see that happen again. Heilman's got to get a move on, though. 4 seconds and 14 minutes. They're going to have to make it up somewhat quickly.
Absolutely. And on these talks of these other courses here, it would be nice to see that iRacing go around and do what they did with several of the ovals and try to scan in some of these old, dying, and dead road race courses. We have so many lost Indy tracks, so many lost SCCA tracks. The first one that was ever built in Canada, that was Westwood Motorsports Park, just sits there kind of rotting today, but it was really nice to see them try to bring it back.
Same thing. I mean, what happened to Virginia International Raceway? That track is an old racetrack, but it's set dormant for 40 years. Nobody raced on it, and it was revived. We told that story when we were at VIR. Luckily, Road Atlanta has escaped similar fates. It felt like there was a couple of times where the track might go silent. It hasn't done, and in the modern context, it's still uh, a widely used racing circuit for not only club level events but big sporting events like Petit Le Mans as well. And just thankful for stuff like that. It is. There's nothing more depressing than a disused racetrack in my mind.
Exactly, and that's why like such a big proponent of like trying to take as many pictures, at least to try to recreate these tracks, because I think that having that kind of collective memory of these older tracks and getting a chance to race on them is such an important and fun thing for maybe people new to motorsports and stuff like that who want to kind of experience what it was like in their parents' time and their grandparents' time.
I think about the Brooklyn circuit in the UK, where yeah, obviously part of it's a commercial district and part of it's a housing estate now, but there is some of the banking of Brooklyn still left, and the reverence that place has for a lot of motorsports fans and just the history of that is it kind of accentuates my point of just how unfortunate it is that tracks like that do go by the wayside. I'm super thankful that even though we don't use it anymore, that the oval, the bowl section of Monza is still there, and that wasn't torn down or anything like that. To have stuff like that still around, to me, all that you talk about the track in Canada as well, stuff like that. It's important. We need to preserve motorsport history. I mean, not something that a lot of people outside of motor racing thinks about, unfortunately, is the preservation of motorsports history. But realistically, motorsports does a lot to further the automotive industry outside of racing. And here it is, Sindelar down the inside of Lepp. They're still side by side as they go through 11 and through 12. Are they still side by side? I don't know. He's staying far to the outside of the racetrack, but he's got it done. He took down the inside, but eventually was able to complete it around the outside, bound Lepp up on the inside of turn 11. Sindelar back to P2.
What a great overtake in such a dangerous corner. I was really shocked to see them kind of dive in like that. I mean, I think they're teammates. Their liveries look very similar. I could be wrong. I did not double check that before the race today, but whew, what a really tight overtake that was. Hopefully they were communicating it, because damn, that was close.
Yeah, that was real close. Sindelar, I think, put Lepp in an unadvantageous position there. And oh, this is Leach. This is while the battle between Sindelar and Lepp was happening. A turn behind them. Just a huge slide there by Leach. This is Lubos Lepp here. Just trying to make up time on Sindelar, and Lepp drives off the track there, loses a ton of time. And that's unfortunate. That might be all she wrote for Lubos Lepp.
Absolutely terrible to hear. We do have somebody in chat here. Here's Tom. He says, "Let's go, Peter Roche." Cheering on the 4th place LMP2 Peter Roche. Let's get a view on him. Yeah, we do. In the CLL car, looks like he's trying to kind of close the gap on the cars ahead of him, but unfortunately, that 2-second gap might be a little bit too much to surmount with only 9 minutes and 51 seconds remaining.
I don't know. He was 10 seconds behind about 10 minutes ago. I think this CLR, Delara, might have something to say about this. And this would be funny. This is HWT. It would be with Tom Bryant in 3rd. This would be HWT versus CLR. These two teams are quite used to racing against each other outside of iRacing. And RCI has played the host of many of these bouts. Not all of them, of course, but these two have a storied history. It's not a bad history. They're quite friendly with one another. But HWT, CLR, we can see it again here today. It's about 2 seconds. It fluctuates depending on where they are in the corner, of course. But it was 10. It's down to 2. Oh, yeah, but I tell you what, though, he's going to have to continue to make up the time. Tom Bryant did a 1:12 the last time through. Roche did a 1:10. That's absolutely quicker. Of course, Tom Bryant, I think, impacted there by traffic. So the lap before, though, Bryant did a mid-11, and Roche did a low 12 whenever Roche was the one dealing with traffic. So we'll see. It's 1.6 seconds to gap now, and it's closing down. The question becomes, oh, Tom Bryant's in the pit lane. There is no question. The question is, why is Tom Bryant in the pit lane?
I don't think we got any sort of notification about any sort of accident he might have been in, but I guess we're going to find out. I mean, Peter Roche really taking advantage of this to really increase the gap between him and Bryant. Bryant's like already at 20 seconds. Looks like Bryant's coming out of the pits now because that time is not hemorrhaging anymore. It's only, oh, yeah, it looks like it's only going down by 0.1 seconds opposed to just that flying up. Oh, he got a drive-through we're hearing about. Oh, no, we're checking. Okay, give us a second here. A little bit of technical difficulties. Let's see how many points we are at. Tom Bryant with only 19, so that should not have been a drive-through.
He must have got his fuel wrong, Sarah, is what's gone there. Tom Bryant, trying to keep it close on fuel, has got it wrong. But no, if that's the case, Tom will have got it massively wrong unless he got under 10 minutes and saw the writing on the wall that he was going to run out eventually and brought the car in early to try and make something up here at the end. Either way, Tom Bryant, an unscheduled pit stop there. Doesn't appear like they've gotten a penalty. They don't have enough X's to get a penalty, but they brought it down pit lane. That will promote Peter Roche back up into third. And for Bart Macha, a wild ride here near the end. You know, Sarah, you're tired, you're worn out, and you lose a little bit of focus here late in the race because you're not really racing anybody. You're just paying more attention to that clock ticking down to the end of the race. You lose a little bit of focus, and all of a sudden you find yourself driving through the dirt.
Yeah, these hour and 20-minute races really put a lot of extra strain on the drivers. Most drivers in endurance events are only driving about an hour and 5 minutes, and sometimes they'll double stint, but usually there's still enough time in between to kind of stretch out a little bit, clear your mind, ungrip the wheel for a second. But these drivers are on that for such a long time, and because of that quick repair, that means that their time when they come into the pits is very short. They're just getting the fuel and leaving. It's way faster than you realize. So all right, so I guess I'm on comms here right now. We're with Strika. I'm gonna just absolutely destroy your name. Dystra, there we go. Thank you very much. The voice in my head telling me the things that I need to know. Getting past this GT3 car, kind of nice clean one into this final turn. It's gonna come ripping out right down that hill. Lots of speed. He doesn't really have to do much but try to keep the car together. There's a 2.8 second gap though between him and Heilman behind him, and you know Heilman's gonna be pushing hard to try and close that gap with only 5 minutes and 22 seconds remaining. That battle, we've been watching that since probably 10 minutes into the race. These two drivers have been just back and forth trying to find a way, one to control it, to control their position, and the other to really try to find a way to get past the other driver. Right now, we're just living in their era. It's between these two, and we just hope for the best.
Heilman might have something to say about it. He's going to need a little help from lap traffic or the GTP category coming through to upset Dijkstra one last time to get back up there. I think most laps Heilman's a little bit better, but hasn't been able to close the deal on this thing in the last couple of weeks, and that haunts you as a driver. I can tell you that personally. It's not something that you just stew on it all week long until you get another opportunity. And in Heilman's case, you get an opportunity like he's had. He sat on the pole a couple of times, and just you replay it in your head. How do I get in this position? How do I always find myself as unlucky number two? And you worry about it. As it looked like the LMP2 nearly beat the GTP up the hill. Ted Edwards was the stricken car, the number 8, the blue car you saw from the corner of the screen. That car's been sitting there for quite some time. And I don't know if this is a turn one gone wrong. It looks like it is. Contact, no. Just loses it on their own. They're trying to keep their foot in it. They're going to come all the way back onto the racetrack, and they've got to wait. That's why the yellow flag was so long. You can see the traffic. He's waiting on it. He's going to go all the way to the inside part of the racetrack here, and he's trying to be very deliberate with his movements here as to not spook any of the other drivers. And eventually, as he's doing the Austin Powers turn here, he will get this car going the right direction. Now,
do we have a count on how many turns that was? How many points that was?
That was probably about 6. That I would have more appreciated. I don't know why he wouldn't just at that speed go off into the dirt and then come back onto the track. Why he elected to stay on that part of the circuit, but luckily was very predictable and everybody was able to filter their way through. I did like how every time he knew there were cars coming, he stopped moving, which is incredibly important because if you get motion one way or another, it can kind of scare the other drivers a little bit. So Heilman has come into the pit lane. Now that's a stop and drop. Now that tells me that the 796 didn't have enough fuel to make it to the end. Potentially the second prototype today that has underfueled the race car. That will promote the CLR 404 up into P2 again. Now this car was wrecked at the end of lap 1.
What a shock. You know, he drove in there, he had no front to his car, and now he's already back up to second. Really taking advantage of other drivers' mistakes. And we also are getting a report from Chad here saying that it's only 17 for a drive-through. Are we able to pull up that the penalty list again to see who then got drive-throughs today? So that means that we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drive-throughs today. That would be drive-throughs for Bart Macha, Peter Dominicus. Oh no, Peter Dominicus did not get a drive-through, but he's very close to it. Ted Edwards, Yaroslav Sindelar, Tom Bryant, Yannick Ruoff, and that's it. Oh, I'm missing someone here. Kevin Boss.
Also, just so that explains some of the additional pit stops that we've had thus far. A minute or so left in the race. It's not over for second place, though. Roche is in front of Heilman. Heilman's right on the back of him, though. So we'll see if that changes here in the final something lap. But just got to give a huge attaboy to Felipe, who has controlled this entire race. We've not seen a race this season where one driver has dominated flag to flag. Sindelar was right there with him early on, but was unable to hang with what Felipe was producing today. The number 9 Cadillac will win this race by what appears to be effectively an entire lap here as we get down to the final few moments. Dykstra took the lead from Heilman somewhat early into the race, and despite a couple of attacks where the lead has gone back and forth, Dykstra is going to end up winning this race, and very well done too, as the cars are coming across the line to get the checkered flag. Felipe has already come across. Dykstra has won it in the LMP2 category. This fight, by the way, still going on. This is not after the checkered flag. This is on the last lap of the race. This is Roche from Heilman's car and Chocolate Chip versus CLR.
This is a disclaimer brought to you by RCI. Please do not consume CLR. Only use CLR on your household products that it says it's for. Use as directed.
Very well said. Not a sponsor, but if you're out there, sponsor. Couple of lap cars coming up here. Everybody racing back to the flag, trying to make their own way. I think that's Kevin Boss I spy, the Lamborghini there of Anderson, who I believe has rejoined. I think that was Piotr Dominicus, I've just realized, I think is what I'm seeing there. But these two fighting the line. One last gaffes, didn't quite get a run here. Did Heilman. Roche in command and in control in the CLR car, and that's how it's going to finish. Dykstra wins it, but Roche and Heilman, your podium here today. Bryant and Edwards, the other finishers in LMP2. Give a call to Janjic as well. Same thing as Felipe in the top class. Just ran away with it. Nobody could handle what Janjic was throwing at them today. Ruoff in the other Porsche will take home P2. Bart Macha had an adventurous day in the Ferrari, but will come home third in that class. Rowe and Dominicus, your top five. Boss and Anderson, your other finishers in GTD. Well, what a spirited race. We had a couple of good class battles. GTD was very interesting midway through the race. LMP2, though, continues to deliver.
It really does. It's some of the fastest while simultaneously scariest racing out there. While GTDs really have to kind of support them have those hybrid engines, LMP2 don't have that. They just have to really leverage their aero for every bit of advantage they want over each other. And I was absolutely blown away to see that Roche and Heilman had identical laps to finish that race, both with a 1:10.271.
That was incredibly impressive. Well, we've got Justin Dijkstra with us here in the booth after an impressive win here today. You didn't qualify on pole. You had to go up there and take the lead on several occasions. Justin, how was it from your perspective?
Yeah, I did some practice for this race to see if I had to save some fuel or not. And as calculated, I needed 4 laps. So yeah, that was about how do I save all 4 in the first stint and then go all out? But I didn't. I saved 3, and then had to save 1 in the final stint. So yeah, I was on a fuel save strategy in T1. I don't know if you guys saw it on the broadcast. Roche spun ahead of me, so that was a bit unfortunate for him. So that was him out of the race basically. And then I was behind Heilman, and he wasn't saving, and I was. So I was like, I'm quicker in certain parts, but slower in other because I'm saving fuel. So it was a bit of yeah, cat and mouse, so to say. But yeah, it worked out in the end. He got past me, I got past him out of the pits, and then even though I had to save a little bit of fuel, he didn't get past me. And then I already knew the only one on my strategy was Roche, I think. Maybe Ted Edwards as well, but he was 15 seconds behind me, so I knew. Make no mistakes, and the win is yours.
Well, that was the key today. All the winners have one thing in common is that they didn't make mistakes. You're no different. What was the battle with Heilman that you went back and forth upon? Heilman got back out in front. You retook the lead, and then he came back at you strong, but you were able to withstand the test. I mean, did you always know that you had an advantage over him, despite the fact that he had a little bit more speed? Were you ever worried? Did you have a contingency plan if he got by you again?
Yeah, well, it was all about me. Like, I wanted to save fuel, so I was like, I don't care what he does. And I could see on his driving style that he wasn't saving fuel. You can see the brake lights, and I knew, okay, those are the regular braking points, so it's not saving anywhere. So if he's gonna keep this up, then he needs to pit, and he pitted 3 laps earlier, or on the exact lap that you pit if you haven't saved. So I was like, yeah, I don't really care what he does. Yeah, the best thing for me is him just go by me. So when I brake or I lift early and he brakes later, we don't have contact. Because that was the thing I was kind of scared of when I got in front of him. But it all worked out in the end.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn you over to my partner, Sarah Stant. Or maybe I'm not going to do that. Congratulations to you. Another well-ran race. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Dijkstra, your winner in LMP2 today.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, from LMP2 to GTD, Yannick Ruoff had an up and down roller coaster kind of day. Yannick, what do you think about Road Atlanta now?
The same as before. Definitely not my track. Yeah, it was a pretty bad race by me. The beginning was quite okay. I was able to stay with Zoncic, but after I think it was around about half an hour into the race, I ran wide into T1, lost about 2 to 3 seconds, and a couple of laps later, I got bad luck with the traffic, did a mistake again, and after that it was like, I don't know, 10, 11 seconds, 2 turns ahead. So I decided to pit. Also had a bit of damage. And after the pit, the race was kind of over. I think shortened the gap to 6 or 7 seconds after the pit. But overall, I was even without the mistakes, I was too slow. I was lacking 10th or 2 per lap. So without making mistakes, I would not be able to get P1. So overall, P2 is okay, but still disappointed with my performance.
Well, there's one more race left in the season. Are we going to see Yannick Ruoff in victory lane?
I hope so. Next track, Sebring, suits me way better. Also, maybe with the rain. Could rain, I think. So, yeah, you never know what's going to happen, but looking forward to it, to end the season on a high.
Excellent. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to send you down to my partner, Sarah Stan.
Sorry about that before. So in terms of your race today, what do you think was the biggest threat to finishing well?
Just my lack of concentration. After the first mistake, I was like, well, it's over. And after that, it was so tough for me to keep the concentration high, and then just lacking more pace, making more mistakes. Yeah, it's kind of all went wrong with the first mistake.
I mean, at the end of the day, you finished second, so congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
Second place in the race today, second in the championship. One more to go. Ruoff likes his odds. Good luck. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Peter Roche has a interesting stat. Peter, welcome in. And you know that I'm a guy who loves statistics. You are the only driver in today's race to touch every position in your class. You ran everywhere. You eventually finished on the podium and in P2 nonetheless. Early mistakes, but excellent racing after that. Tell us about your day.
Yeah, thank you. That was a very rough start, unfortunately. I feel like a fool, to be honest, because I just lost the rear end at the start. It was sort of synchronized losing of the rear end with me and Heilmann, but he managed to save the rear. I didn't, unfortunately. I tried to use my rally skills, but they failed me, and I just went into the wall and lost the front of the car completely, the front piece, and I just went into the pits as fast as I could, changed it with the fast repair, and then it was all about, well, in the first stint, saving the fuel still, but still, trying to manage a good pace and just hoping to salvage something, hoping that others will make a mistake, or maybe we would again have drive-thrus like at Laguna Seca. So in the first one I was saving, and then in the second stint I was just pushing for the absolutely maximum pace with no fuel saving, because I had the fuel I could use, and somehow managed to get the P2, which I'm super happy about.
That's kind of the thing, though. You needed to not have a disaster. You didn't need to knock it out of the park. You just needed to have a nice, you just needed to have a day that where you didn't have anything major go wrong, and then all of a sudden you're one of the first cars that has a major problem early on. And if Dijkstra goes on to win the race and you finish fifth, we're talking about, a winner take all race in the final. Yeah, at Sebring, and that's not something you want. You somehow are the first to have the incidents. You recover all that time, and you're looking pretty safe going into Sebring now.
Yeah, the narrative changed quite a bit from the beginning of the race. So, yeah, great recovery. I would be happy to have the second position after a normal race without any accidents at all. So, this is a great result, great recovery. I don't know if you saw how close it was when Heilmann came out of the pits in the second stop.
We did, yes.
we just passed each other like side by side, and it was so close. And if I would lose a second, even half a second in that sometime before that, well, then it would be a different story, and I will be P3, which would, to be fair, still be okay. But to have P2, amazing.
All right. Well, it was absolutely amazing to watch you come back through the field today. I'm going to turn you over to my partner.
Absolutely wonderful, wonderful race today. Love to see these sort of races that kind of go back to front. How did it feel driving the car when the entire front fell off?
Good, a bit rough, because I just didn't have much consistency here. It's a bit tough, and also I didn't practice that much. And well, it's a lot of laps here, and I am actually, Sarah, you don't know this, but I am driving with just my right hand, because since it was round 3, I believe, at Virginia, so still doing that. So, that's just tough on the stamina, and yeah, a bit fighting with myself during the whole race, but yeah, try to keep it somewhat consistent and have a good pace, and manage to get even the fastest lap of the race as far as I saw. So that's extra points. So yeah, that's also great.
Well, again, congratulations on your amazing recovery drive.
Thank you very much.
Peter Roche doing it one-handed, preserves a championship lead into the final week of the series. On to the winner of GTD, Zorian Janjic has joined us, and as far as I could tell, Janjic, it was as easy as pie out there for you today, but I suspect it wasn't actually in practice.
No, it wasn't at all. At least in first half of the race when Yannick was on my back. But to be honest, this track is really hard to be consistent because of the curbs and bumps on the entries. But first 20-25 minutes, Yannick was on my back on half a second, and even he had a chance to overtake me, but I defended that time. And after that, he made a mistake, I think, somewhere. Something happened. And then it was only like bringing it home, not pushing that much, and keeping tires alive. And that's it.
I gotta say, it was impressive. We saw Felipe in the GTP category. They sort of ran away with it. You just did not get involved in any of the major incidents out there. How difficult was it to stay out of trouble with two faster classes today on this track?
This track was pretty hard with the traffic because it's high speed and faster cars are diving you on entries. So it was watching the relative all the time, predicting where the overtake will happen. Some guys it's not they are not pushing that much to overtake slower classes. Other guys are diving in a bit, so it was okay. Couple of moments. It was one huge moment in last turn when we went 3 wide. One car went on the grass, but overall it was fine. It was fine. But watching the mirror, watching the relative, and listening to Spotter when he says faster cars approaching, and then preparing to let them go. That's it, basically.
Well said, well said. Janjic, by the way, has pretty much secured the GTD championship with this win here today. And as your prize, I'm going to send you down to my partner, Sarah Stan.
Oh, I didn't know that was a prize now. Wow. Great job. I mean, GT3 racing is, in my opinion, amongst the pinnacle of racing. So, it's always nice to get a chance to talk with the person who wins the race. So, overall, I asked the other person what the biggest challenge of doing well in this race was. What I'm going to ask you was, how much do you think the GTD or GTPs and LMP2s played into your strategy coming in today?
Today, I was lucky, let's say lucky with the traffic. They overtake me on the straights, and they didn't took me so much time. In first stint, there was a couple of moments I lost like a second and a half per lap, but later I got lucky. It was it was okay track for this one. The biggest one was, I think, Road America. I was losing so much there with the traffic, but it's luck in the end. How it's gonna happen, where is overtake gonna happen, but it was okay. I can say I'm pretty lucky with traffic today, and pretty happy together with the championship because I started here coming from ACC. I was racing, as I said in last interview, I was racing in iRacing like 4 or 5 years ago, and I quit then, and it was a big break, like 2 or 3 years, and came back to ACC, and then this championship is like I try to settle everything up to progress, and from the race one, from Daytona to this one, I can say I'm happy with everything. Basically, that's it. I would like to at least like more guys to be racing here, but considering now the rain has come and probably iRacing will get a little bit more popular here, so I'm happy and waiting for another championship after this one ends. That's it.
Absolutely. I hope for another championship of these cars as well, but I want to see one that's all raining. I want to see that fully wet Vancouver challenge. Thank you so much, Zaran, for
Thank you.
coming into the booth with us. I think I said your name right, I hope.
Yes, it's great.
Thank you for
The-
coming in and chatting with us after your win. You did great today. Is there anything last you want to say before we send you off?
No, basically thanks RCI for everything, for organizing this one up. I hope that the last one will get the mixed weather, so basically everyone can race for the first time probably in that weather. So I'm looking to that one, and now when pressure is for the championship is off, it's gonna be fun. I hope so. That's it. Thanks so much.
There you have it. Zoran Jančić, your winner today, and quite possibly your champion-elect in GTD. Glad to have him back in the iRacing world, and that is strange to hear. Several drivers during our interview process tonight have talked about wanting a little bit of wet weather at Sebring. We'll see what old Dungeon Master Tom Bryant has to say about that. Finally, but certainly not least, we check in with a little something I like to call the Dominicus Report. Piotr, you're with us. And unlike last week, today was an absolute struggle for the number 6 Lamborghini.
Evening, Jesse. Why do I even get into this commentator booth at this point? Well, let's start out with qualifying, shall we? I was on the toilet for the first 5 minutes of that part, so good start there. Rushing to get a qualifying lap in didn't happen. So there I am next to Kevin, who at least some can't really fall to the back anymore, can only go forwards. Then we go to the start. I felt great at that start. I was like, what has this car? And then I realized I'm on quali fuel. So after 3 laps, pitted in, tried to see if I can save it up without like having to pit again, but no chance. And pretty much just tried to stay on the pace after that. That's about it.
Well, it was a valiant effort. You definitely didn't give up. We saw that a lot with the drivers in today's race. There were only 2 DNFs. Everybody else was still able to finish the race. And of course, you got a couple of positions back and ultimately got a top 5. What was your impressions of this racetrack?
As somebody who's more back into a position and is more likely to get dived by faster classes, I had a few sketchy moments. But in general, can't really complain. I think everyone has gotten to grips with traffic more lately. So yeah, I'm more looking forward to Sebring at this point. Weather, one of my favorite trucks. Yeah. We will have to see how the weather goes. Rain, whatever we have on our plate.
Sarah Stant, do you have anything for Mr. Dominicus?
I got nothing. Sorry, Peter.
well,
I'm
Piotr,
walking off angry at this point.
well, I think we can all commiserate with you there, and I think, folks, the old saying's true: when you gotta go, you gotta go. Piotr, thanks for coming and talking to us. Good luck in the finale.
P1 next time, right?
He's calling it. Piotr Dominicus P1. He's going to take it to Ruoff and Janjic. He's going to do it. Good luck, Dominicus, in the finale.
Thanks, Jesse. So, thanks.
Have a great night, Peter. Thank you very much for racing with us.
Bye-bye.
You know, Sarah Stant, there's something CLR Cleaner can't fix, and that was certainly one of them today. Hey, if you liked this kind of racing, or maybe your ACC's more your speed, maybe you're a rally driver for WRC, or maybe you like some crazier one-offs like AMS2, RCI is the place to go. We've got racing and different splits to meet your particular pace and skill level. All of that available at racerci.com. The newest championships have gone up for signups or have just started. The Monday Touring Cars and GT4 Multiclass Series has started, and what a banger round one was at Red Bull Ring in ACC. We're coming to Imola this Monday. All this, of course, you still have time to sign up and get involved. Night Owls, our next broadcast here on the schedule, Saturday night. We're going to be at Paul Ricard, which has always proved to be a quite entertaining racetrack here for us here at RCI. Of course, Sarah and I will be back with you for the series finale here for IMSA Road Racing Season 1 at Sebring. Will there be weather? Will there not be? We'll all find out at the same time when we go live. Also, this Saturday, if you haven't already, maybe you haven't heard, RCI is putting on its own Sebring race. It's a one-off event with these very cars. 2 hours, 40 minutes of racing around Sebring. It is a one-off series. 25 or so cars already signed up. And if you haven't already, why not get involved? Do a little Saturday afternoon iRacing action for you. Midweek Masters has signed up, or signups are open. It's a team championship, I'm pretty sure, and still got a week or so before that goes live. The new KTM Masters Series is starting not this Friday, but next Friday. 2 different KTMs. You got the GT4 and the GT2 variant, multi-class racings only in KTMs. It is an Austrian's dream come true. It's going to be quite fun. The track list is awesome. They start that series at Brands Hatch. Still time to sign up for that as well. The World Tour comes back next weekend as well. Still time to grab your teammates and sign up for that. The first race, the 4 hours of Nürburgring. That's not this weekend, but next Saturday. You're not going to want to miss that event as well. So much going on here at RCI. Hard to keep it all straight, of course. If you're interested in WRC action, join our RaceNet group over on the Codemasters site. Join the Discord for links for all of that stuff and more. Sarah, we got a lot going on.
So much going on here at RCI, but it's always such a fun time. Go ahead and sign up. I don't care if it's your first race or you haven't raced in 5 years. Get in the seat. Everybody here is so friendly and will help bring you up to speed real damn fast.
It really is. I mean, we've seen so many drivers. Ash Bibby, our very own broadcaster, he was perennially second to last. Now he's competing for podiums in class. What's going on with that man? And it's the same thing. Anybody can get involved, and that's kind of the friendliness of RCI. That's different. We don't just throw you in where we think you're competitive. We don't throw you into the deep end. You kind of get your feet wet. You race with people of similar skill. You come up through it by your own pace and your own measure of success, essentially, not what an algorithm says. So all those events, you can sign up mid-season, have a little fun. For the ones that haven't started yet, go to racerci.com, check them out. A big shout out to AK Esports, who helps us with our server solutions for ACC. We appreciate them for everything they do, and for more on what AK can do for you and your esports series, akesports.it. Digital Motorsports is your one-stop shop for everything sim racing, from full-on racing rigs to rims and replacement parts. Digital Motorsports, check them out, and while you're there, check out their sim rig builder. Build the sim rig of your budget or your dreams at digitalmotorsport.com. Go Setups is the destination to go if you're looking to get fast setups to get up to speed quickly in ACC. Visit their setup shop at Go Setups. Use the link in the description. And last but not least, Driver 61. If you're looking to brush up on racing at Road Atlanta to try and not get those late race pesky drive-throughs, a little bit of conditioning, a little bit of consistency, you can check out Driver 61. They offer one-on-one driver coaching and full-on racing schools to help get you up to speed, consistent, and confident behind the wheel of your race car. Sarah Stant, what a day of racing we've had here in Hot Atlanta. What are your final thoughts?
I'm just glad that everybody who came out today got a chance to see what is my favorite track in all of racing. And a lot of people got to experience the real roller coaster this track really can be.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It is indeed that, and it delivered on every account today. Good close racing, back and forth. Single car mistakes was the name of the day, and a couple of drivers leaving frustrated, a couple absolutely stoked. The key today, I think we can all agree, was consistency. One race left to go. Who will be our champions that are still in doubt, and who will surprise us with potentially a win in mixed conditions next week, weather permitting, of course. I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Sarah Stant and Ash Bibby behind the cameras. We thank you so much for being with us. And while you're still here, if you are still here, first of all, thank you for staying to the end. But why not like and subscribe and hit the bell for more racing action. Our next broadcast here will be on Saturday. Untold if that'll be the Sebring 2 hours 40 minutes or Night Owl or both. But we will be here on Saturday for you. Until then, thank you all for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Take care of yourselves. Have a good night.
And drink some water.
Bye.